Hi, my name is Steve with Insteon Technology. We get emails that come in from customers from time to time that say, I had an Insteon camera, I've had it for many years and it stopped working, or I can't see it on my app anymore. Sometimes they'll relate that to the hub must have gone down, or the cloud services were turned off and that's what caused it. Likely it's because it lost its Wi-Fi connection. When those cameras were first added into the app, there's an option to configure them for remote access and also on Wi-Fi. So the remote access is something called UPnP, where they do port forwarding automatically from the app in your router. And then they set the cameras up Wi-Fi so you can place them anywhere you want without having to have a cable going to them. Now, the safest and easiest way to get back to where you were if you're using the Insteon for Hub app is just factory reset your camera. On the bottom, there's a little hole. It says reset. Hold in a paper clip and push in the button for about 15 seconds and then let the camera reboot itself, and then delete it from the app. If you have a camera that you're trying to add and it's in the app, just delete it from the app and then add it back in. The app is going to try to go through and automatically set up Wi-Fi, and it's going to set up port forwarding. If those fail, port forwarding will fail because your router doesn't support what we call UPnP, or universal plug and play, and you're going to have to go in and do it automatically. This is where the video picks up. Is I have a camera, I'm not using the Insteon app, and I need to do port forwarding, or I am using the app, but port forwarding failed and I want to access my cameras from outside. This will also be helpful to say, I'd like you to use a different app to monitor my cameras instead of the Insteon app. Or I'd like to have a software that runs on my desktop. Now, I have grabbed a Foscam app and a Foscam video management software that I'm going to show you. It by any means doesn't mean that that's what you should use. There's tons of them out there. They're referred to as VMS software, video management software. These happen to be free. Foscam is the one that made these cameras for Insteon. That's why I'm choosing Foscam VMS and the Foscam app. So let's go through a few things here. The first thing is I've reset my camera. Now I need to find it. And how do I do that? I will have all of these links will be in the notes of this video. But if you did a Google search for Insteon camera setup, this is going to be the first thing you'll find. And I'm going to download the Wi-Fi Assistant. Now, I want you to see what it looks like when I do it. This has been about 8 years since this thing's been updated, so here's what happens. I click on it, and what do I get? I get an angry message that says it can't be downloaded, looks scary. I'm going to go ahead and say I want to keep it. And then it's going to say again, are you sure? Malicious attacks? Yes, I know where it's coming from, so we want to keep it anyway. Now I can click and I can run the file to just open it. So that is how you find the camera finder tool. All it is a tool that goes out and finds the camera for you, and there it is. I want to write this number down because this is the IP address that the device has, and it's the port that the camera's at, 34100. So if you're going to do multiple cameras and have them accessible from outside of your house, so when you're remote to your home and you want to be able to view them, you have to port forward those cameras, meaning you're opening up little spots in your router to allow outside traffic to access them. Each camera has to have its own port. So since this one is already assigned 34100, if I did another camera, it would be 34101, 102. Just make them sequential. It's easier to keep track that way. Let's go in the process now of logging in. The default login is admin. And when I do that, it says, hey, for security reasons, you should change all of this. It already put in admin as the username. You're going to want to change it because if you're using this in your app, the app won't accept admin as a username. It'll just keep saying you have the wrong credentials, even though you keep putting in the password correctly, so you need to change it. And I'm just going to give it a name. And I'm going to create a password. And the security level is not that high. I could throw in some characters if I want, but for this video, I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm going to click modify, and it says it was successful. And now it's going to have me verify that. So I'm going to go and log in. And this is going to get me now into the setup wizard for this. Now this happens to be an HD camera. So this setup wizard is going to look a little different than what you're used to if you have the standard definition camera. But the principles are the same. So you're still going to find a network tab, and you'll see a thing for changing your camera name. I'm using the setup wizard here. First thing it says is, well, what do you want to call the camera? I want to call it camera 1. And it says my time zone, all that. I'm like, yep, that's like, do I want daylight savings time? Do we support that? You can check it if you want. And then you can also put it how far ahead if you're in one of those areas where you're off by a little bit. And you're going to do the daylight savings time for things like schedules and stuff on recording. Now I want to set up the Wi-Fi, so I'm going to scan the network. And it's usually going to pull up based on strength. It's going to pull up the SSID, which is your network name. And I'm going to go ahead and type in my Wi-Fi password. And I'm going to click next. And then I'm going to finish. That's it. Now, let's say this was my second camera that I was putting in. I called it camera 2. I would want to go in under the network settings, and then I would want to go under port. And I would change this to 34101. And then hit save. That's how you change the port on there. There are a lot of other features on here that I'm not going to go into right now. They're not necessary for this video. But you can put a memory card on these cameras, and you can record local video and on all of that. Now I want to show you, well, how do we port forward this? How do we allow the camera to be accessed from outside the home? I'm going to go into my router. I'm in the advanced tab in my Netgear Orbi router. I want to add a new port forward rule. Now the way Orbi does it is they call them services. Telnet is 23, FTP is 21, HTTP is 80. Well, those don't match up with 34100, and I don't really care because I'm just going to edit it anyhow. So I'm going to pick one, and my IP was 62. Got to sign into my router, and there it is. But it's not correct because it's at port 21. So I'm going to go in and edit this service. And I'm going to do a couple of things. One is I'm going to rename it. I'm going to call it Camera 1. This says TCP, which is fine. You can also do both. Do not choose UDP. And then I want to do 34100. If this was my second camera, I'd be doing 34101. And then apply. And now I can see I have my service here. I call it Camera 1, 34100. And it matches my IP address. Good, I'm now port forwarded. This means if I have my outside WAN address, and that stands for Wide Area Network, and if I was on a computer outside of my house and I typed in my WAN address, http:// the WAN address, and your port number, 34100 in this case, I would get to the login of my camera. Now you might be asking, what's the WAN address? If you're on your own network at home and you go to Google and type in the words my IP in a search engine, usually you'll get it pop up in a banner. And I'm not going to get into too much detail, but they call it an IPv4 is the one that you're normally used to, like 75.13.82.7, that type of a wide area network address. There's also an IPv6 address, which is a lot of characters, and it looks a lot different than a standard IP address does. So you might have to go down to maybe the 4th or 5th search result, one of those websites like whatsmyip.com, and then you'll see what it is, your WAN address. You can also just go to Google and say, how do I find out what my WAN address is, or my IPv4 WAN address? And then that's how you fashion it. http:// that IP address, and then the port, 34 100. You save that on your phone. You could be anywhere in the world. You hit it, you're going to get into this camera now because you've created the port forward rule. Now, in closing, I want to show you a couple of things. One is OWLR. These cameras are made by Foscam, sold by Insteon. Foscam made a camera that looked exactly the same, and Insteon branded these, and they were made a long time ago. That's why I'm picking a Foscam viewer that you can download on your phone, is because it'll probably work best with those cameras if you're not using the Insteon app. You might find that there's some other features and things that you like with the Foscam viewer. So simply showing you this just as a resource. And then the other thing is, this happens to be a Foscam VMS, video management system. I'm not necessarily recommending it. I'm just saying that here's an example, and there's a lot of examples of free software that you can download that are video management software for your video cameras. But what you would do is download it, and I already have it running. And I'm going to add my camera. And right away it found it. And I'm going to highlight it. And I'm going to click Add. And it's going to ask me to log in. So, account is the username. And then the password. This is what I set the camera to. And it's going to pop up. You could add multiple cameras. This thing will view quite a few different types of cameras. And you can see it's here in the upper right hand corner. Once you've added cameras into the system, you can turn them on and off. And there's the camera. So this is just an example of how you can take ownership over your Insteon cameras outside of the Insteon app, or factory reset and just start over again, because likely what happened is your Wi-Fi changed, you put some new hardware in, you never even dawned on you that you did that. It happens quite often. And this is a way to be able to get you back to normal instead of trying to figure out exactly the part that didn't line up. It's easy just to factory reset it and then add it back into the app. The parts that fail, if you can't do the port forwarding from the app, I just showed you how. If you can't configure the Wi-Fi in the app, I just showed you how. If you already configure it ahead of time and you're going to add it in the app, well then don't say you're trying to configure the Wi-Fi, just say it's hardwired, because the app won't know any difference or any different. So hopefully this helps. Please reach out to our support if there's anything else that we can help with. Take care.